Hey, I am Jarika Dodd, and it is the day after Thanksgiving. And I couldn't think of a better person to hang out with on the day after Thanksgiving. Because, like technically it's kind of the holidays, but I couldn't think of a better person to hang out with than a woman that I've known, a woman in pharmacy that I've known for several years now, and I admire her so much. This lady is amazing, and if you've been attached to PharmaSis Magazine, you've seen her once, and now you're getting ready to see her again because she is that dynamic. She is Dr. Pauline Long. So I want to say, welcome, Dr. Pauline.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Jarika.
You are welcome. And as I said to you today, when I looked at my calendar, I was like, oh, Pauline, that's like old friends getting on the phone and just chatting.
Yes.
And I know we talked a bit in our time before we went live, but I will forever, ever, ever be grateful for 3 years ago, a little earlier, about this time of year, 3 years ago, when I said, hey, I have this idea. And I went to women that I knew in business and professionally. And I don't even know that I knew you all well enough to ask you to give me your pictures, pay me your money, and I'm gonna put it all in a magazine. I don't even know, but I was like, I mean, if they say no, then I guess it's just no. But I'm so grateful that you took a chance on me, and it was my honor to feature you in the first issue, the premiere issue of PharmaSis Magazine. This wild and crazy idea that I have that is now featured over 68 women since then. You were like one of the original ones. It was 3 years ago. So, and I had this up. I just keep it close. You know what I mean? It has lots of special. So this is Dr. Pauline Long, and she appeared in the inaugural premiere issue 2019 fall of PharmaSis Magazine. And in my favorite color, she and her colleague, Dr. Jennifer Campbell, appeared in orange. And when I tell you, these women were in their infancy in Birmingham, Alabama, and they were working on taking the world by storm. And they stopped and let humble little old me publish their story in my magazine. So let me ask you, Pauline, who was this woman back then? Who was that Pauline? Tell us who she was. Like, in order for us to come current, like, who was that lady and what was she thinking back then?
You know what? It's interesting. That woman was someone who God had given a vision, but she was very nervous. She was very excited. But honestly, she had a lot of fear. I was a wife. I am a wife. I am a mother of two young children. But I had a vision and a dream of wanting to do more with my pharmacy career. I wanted to be able to impact patients' lives kind of more personally, other than just being behind the pharmacy counter, dispensing medication, telling people where the toilet paper is, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I was like, there has to be a way to just have a greater impact on patients' lives and therefore impact my community and our country. When I got the vision for my company, I thought, man, this is big. I've never seen a pharmacist practice pharmacy without dispensing medication.
Right.
It just wasn't anything that I was accustomed to. So I was able to, start that company. Dr. Jennifer and I started the company. We started, getting out there. We were speakers at events and like with the area agency on aging, and things were happening around that time. But I didn't see a way to actually leave. Oh, there's my twin sister. I didn't see a way to actually leave my full-time job and do this for a living. And that scared me because I didn't always want to, having two small kids, I didn't want to be working my full-time job and have this side gig, and that takes me away from my family even more. So I had the vision, but I had a lot of fear with it.
So let me ask you. So then this crazy lady named Jerika shows up and says, I want to have a magazine. You want to be in the pages of my magazine? Like I couldn't tell you what the magazine was going to look like because you were in the first one. What did you think about putting your pictures, your face, and I put it all over social media, and I still do. So so when I got your new picture, I was like, oh yes, great, this is wonderful, more pictures. What did you think? What did you think of what was going on? I'm like, send me your pictures. I want to share your story. What was that about? Why would you do that?
You know what? It was the first time I'd ever been asked to do anything like that. I'd never been in a magazine before. So I was like, you know what? This seems pretty cool. And for two reasons. One is I'd never done it before. And I was like, I get to get dressed up, get my makeup done, my hair, and go do a photo shoot, which I thought was super cool.
Yes.
When you sent the questions for us to answer for the magazine, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but my first responses were like books. And I think you told me, and that's the short version. You were like, Pauline, we got to cut this out. Like, tell me. Because it allowed me to dream. I mean, some of the questions you ask, I'd received the vision. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And Dr. Jennifer and I were talking about how to make it happen. But when I answered the questions to the magazine, it really allowed me to sit down and think about, okay, what is my best case scenario? What does this the best thing that could happen to me as far as this business is concerned? What does that look like? And it allowed me to sit down and type it out. And I actually still have my first responses. So I thought it was really
I do too.
I thought it was really cool.
I look at you here and I said, what is or was your biggest fear and how did you face or address it? And you said, my biggest fear was not being good enough, feeling that I don't have the education or experiences to confidently step out into entrepreneurship. I have overcome this fear by the word of God. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies those he calls. Absolutely. I have also completed additional trainings and certifications to augment the knowledge gained from pharmacy school and my experience as a community pharmacist.
Yeah. I mean, and think about it. I share the story of a lot of community pharmacists, or even just pharmacists in general. You were an MSL who were in a career for 10, 15, 20 years. And I would say, I'm just a retail pharmacist. I'm just, this is what I know. That's right, Kimberly, God is good. This is just what I know. And I had to learn, number one, remove the word just from my vocabulary. That was something I've learned since publishing that story.
Mm-hmm.
So I removed that from my, hi, Sharon.
I'm gonna stop showing you the messages. We can't concentrate, y'all. I'm gonna show all the answers at the end. She's like me. I do the same thing. All right, keep going.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to remove that word from my vocabulary, and I had to realize, and you helped me so much with this. Everything that I needed was within me. It didn't actually require any additional certifications because, number one, I had the knowledge of a person with a doctor of pharmacy degree. I had gone through enough school to do what I needed to do. And number two, I had a passion to serve people.
Right.
And really, that's all you really needed. Now, sure, you can go and do additional certifications and things like that, but I had everything in me that I needed at the time. Mm-hmm. And thank you to you, I realized that.
It took me some time to realize that I've been jumping, obviously jumping from employee to entrepreneur, that's a big jump. Mm-hmm. But when I really sat down and thought about it, I've been jumping, like really jumping. I remember the first job I quit. Like I didn't have another job. And, that was unheard of. I remember, my dad saying to me, don't you quit that good job. And I was like, oh, but I knew that I was crying every day. I didn't want to be there. I hated it because it wasn't for me. And so I remember when I decided to jump, and I don't know what got into me. And I think that's why people think I've lost my mind now, because I'm over here on the sidelines going, jump, you're gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. But when I look back to being 26 years old and I quit my first job and I had to give a month's notice. I didn't know where my next job was coming from. Yes, I was a licensed pharmacist, and yeah, I could have gone and gotten, another job. But that was my jump into the pharmaceutical industry, where I spent 17 years. I had no clue that and I was like, how my house? No, I had just built a new house. Like all of those things weigh in. And then, my parent is like, kind of like that voice of wisdom to quit that good job. And I'm like, well, so what do? You're miserable. People who have raised you are giving you guidance and saying, don't you quit. And you're like, but no, there's got to be more to life than this, than going to work every day. I call that imposter syndrome. Yeah. Going to work every day, pretending that you love a job that you hate, pretending that you like the people that you do the job with. That is imposter syndrome. So when you find yourself in that situation, it literally becomes a matter of when you're ready. And everybody has a different point of when they're ready. Even if you have somebody crazy over here on the sidelines going, jump, I don't live in your house. And you have to do it when you're comfortable. But that's the thing. There is no comfortable. Even when you got to the point to when you did it, you still weren't comfortable. And you still were like, am I making the right decision? So that's why I'm like, just jump.
And that's why I try to stop using the term leap of faith as far as making the jump to send that, that resignation letter and step down from my position. I used to say it was a leap of faith, but a leap of faith denotes that it was just like a one-time thing. You jump from here to there and then all is well. And it's not like that. It's definitely a journey. So it's definitely multiple leaps, and it's multiple leaps per week. And sometimes it's multiple leaps per day.
Yes.
Because as an entrepreneur, you have to literally, and I'm an introvert. I'm the type of person, I don't really care for like networking and patting myself on the back, shooting my own horn. And, it's just not anything that I do naturally. I've had to kind of learn to do that and learn to be comfortable in that. But it's definitely, you have to take leaps almost daily in order to continue doing what you're doing, continue to live this life of entrepreneurship. It is definitely not one leap of faith.
And I think the other thing, there's so much that's challenged with the way we think based upon how we were trained. We were trained in perfectionism, because if I get your dose of medication wrong, you could die. So you need me to be perfect. But with regard to life, entrepreneurship, perfection actually gets in your way, and it'll keep you hung up not doing things, because we tend to overthink and analyze, because we're scientists. And so in our head, we're like, okay, if I pick option A, this might happen. And we're trying to play all these things out in our head. And sometimes you just won't know until you do it. And so when I think back to that first time jumping, I jumped at 26 years old. And I'm still jumping today. And what has happened is the jumps have gotten larger, and there's more at stake. Like it almost becomes like it becomes a rush, because you're like, okay, because you look back over where you've come from. And as I said before we went live, God has never failed me. No, it doesn't mean that every jump I've made has been, confetti, coming out. No, it's not been the soft landing. Some of the jumps they've taught me a lot. However, when I look back over being 26, having built a house, God, it all worked out. God has not dropped me yet. And so I'm grateful for that. And that, I think, helps undergird you to get ready for the next jump. Because we also talked about the evolution of our businesses. When you met me, I was doing something different, still unconventional, but different than what I do today. And I don't doubt, based upon me giving you some of my recent ideas, it's going to change again. But that, I believe, is the fun part of all of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being able to take where you are, when we spoke about before we went live, when Dr. Jennifer and I were meeting at the Hoover Library, I had my son Seth in his little car seat, and he's sitting down beside us, and we're just planning. What we were planning back in 2018 is not completely different, but it's a pretty good switch from what we're doing now. So being able to take what's going on in the current landscape, and then pivot. Whether you're, some of the things we really enjoy, some of the things we're like, we could probably do this a little different. But being able to be flexible and pivot has really been an amazing experience, because it's opened us up to things that I never imagined. Sitting in that library, like building our website, I never imagined that we'd be doing some of the things that we're doing today, that we'd have sat at some of the tables that we've sat at today. It has been an amazing journey. And had we not taken that initial leap, we wouldn't be here. So I'm grateful for that first leap, and I'm grateful for each little leap that we make on a daily basis.
And it pulls you out, because I honestly, and I do believe, I hear people when they say they're introverted, and you know what I am, but really I believe that in business I don't subscribe to it a whole lot, because when it's yours, you're gonna do what it takes to, and so it doesn't matter if it's an introverted tactic or an extroverted characteristic. You're going to do what I think it may come naturally, like you were saying, for some people, but I know it may not be thought, you may not think it, but I am not one for a bit, but I had for self-promotion, but I had to learn. My grandmother used to say, it's a poor dog who can't hold up his own tail. And so I was like, okay, I guess if anybody's, I've got to be in love with this thing and do it first before anybody else. Because my other phrase is clap for your darn self. And I don't say darn usually, but really, because if you don't, there are times in business where nobody else is clapping for you, which is why I try, when I get the chance to talk to the Pharma Sisters, to say, every time I see you, I'm cheering. I try to respond, because being an entrepreneur can be a lonely journey. I know you have a business partner with Dr. Jennifer, and I hope this is my plug for Dr. Jennifer, so you can make sure she hears this. Dr. Jennifer, we want to interview you too. But it can be a lonely journey, because not everybody gets you. Not everybody understands the jumps that you're taking. The average person doesn't leap like this in their life. And so they stand on the sideline and look at you and think, are you all right? You sure you want to do that? What happened if you can't pay your gift? So I say, yes, I'm glad that you can promote yourself, and that, because you can be introverted when you go home, but this business has got to go.
And that's what I've learned. That's what I've learned. I mean, even in some of our networking events and things that we've gone to, events here in Birmingham and even in Denver. I mean, Jennifer and I presented in June at Preventative Medicine Conference in Denver, Colorado. And I'm like, okay, if this isn't stepping outside of my comfort zone, I don't. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just so grateful, because I have an amazing family. Had I had, my mom or dad, my sister, my husband, who had said, I don't know if this is right for you, it would have caused me to pause just a little bit. I don't know that I would have not done it, but it would have given me pause. But from day one, my husband, Anthony, my children, even my daughter, my 14-year-old, is so proud of me. They are so amazing and supportive that it has made this journey even easier. And I feel like, even if for whatever reason, we have to pivot and maybe do something else that's not related to this, or, I don't want my business not to succeed, but if for whatever reason it doesn't, I feel like they would still be behind me 1,000%. And that means everything, because that allows you to be able to take more risks. I mean, if you knew that you had a tribe literally holding you up, it allows you to have a little bit of more freedom to take risks. So kudos to my family. I love y'all. They're amazing.
And I will tell you that along this way, I don't know, I can't say that my experience has been yours. And that's where I have learned that I can't rely on someone else's approval, disapproval. I'll listen, but oftentimes, I've had people around me who were speaking from fear, and so I've had to learn how to wade through all of that. I hear it, I can, okay, well, I'll think about that, but I get, and you've seen me do posts that say, don't let your brain edit what your heart is screaming. because, as you said, I knew what God had given me. I tell people, because I've had people say, well, I got to talk to God and see. I'm like, I don't. I do, but I don't, because God put these dreams in my heart. And that's why they're different from yours, because he made me. So I already know what's there. So I don't have to question him on what he already put there, and what the secret whispers are that I've had to myself, and saying, I wonder if he put those there. And so learning to listen to what it is that my heart is saying, what it is that is in my spirit, that when the people around me who weren't on the because it wasn't a conference call,
yes,
I had a different experience, and having to, because my natural personality would be to be like, well, what do you think? What do you think? And I think the lesson that I've had to learn in this journey is, yeah, I can hear what people think, but at the end of the day, I didn't get this. I mean, I didn't create this. I didn't in my brain go, well, these are what God has put in my heart. And so that has been one of the lessons I've had to learn, is not looking, because my natural personality would look for everybody to give me a check mark before I could move forward.
And I think it's amazing, because I love to, I'm the kind of person, I'm like you, I seek wise counsel around me. So, I go to my mom and my aunt and people that have been on this earth for many more years than I have, and that have experienced things. But you're right. When God places something inside your heart, it's up to you to listen to the counsel, but the ultimate thing is to listen to the ultimate counselor. Right. And so he's the one that will direct your steps. And the beauty for me, and the beauty in my journey, is that they have aligned. So the counsel from my friends and my family has aligned with what God was telling me. And I feel like that's what I needed personally. I needed those ideas and those check marks to align in order for me to go out more confidently. Because I am shy, and I did kind of, suffer with low self-esteem and things like that in high school and college, and wasn't really sure of myself. I knew I was smart. I knew I could do things that a lot of people, could not do. But I suffered with whether I was enough, as you read, from my magazine entry, with whether I was enough, whether I had enough, I knew enough. And so to have, my counsel here on earth align with my spiritual counsel was what I needed to step out there confidently.
Tell me, what would the Dr. Pauline today, what advice would she give to the Dr. Pauline Long that was in the first issue of PharmaSis Magazine?
Number one is take the step. It doesn't have to be a leap, but take a step. Because had Dr. Jennifer and I not gotten together on our off days in the library, planning things, we would not have been in position to receive that phone call back in 2021 from the county commissioner saying, hey, we need help with these COVID vaccines. Right. So we took small steps on the side that prepared us to be in position to receive that phone call. So I would definitely say, take the step. No matter how nervous you are, knees shaking, heart pumping fast, just take it. And then I would say, don't be afraid of failure, because that was one of the things I felt like, this is something I learned from seeing a therapist, is my brain sees black and white. So things are either great or they're terrible. I don't live in the gray. And that was one of the things.
That's why we make great pharmacists.
I know. But she was like, you have to learn to live in the gray. Everything is not either great or terrible. And so I was pondering, like, taking this leap and going into entrepreneurship. I was like, okay, my business will either succeed or it will fail. And there's no in between. And that's daunting. Like, as a person who's like, okay, do I leave my job? Well, I can either succeed or fail 50-50. And that's not reality. I mean, there's a lot of gray in between there. So I'd say definitely don't be afraid to fail. And in that failure, if there is failure, there's a lesson. So you have to be able to take that lesson, repackage it, and then try something else. Right. So those are the two main things I would tell Pauline in 2018, because that's what held me back, that fear of, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work, my kids won't be able to go to college, we lose our house. And, I had all of this pressure that I really had to come to terms with. And I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't be sitting here today.
And I think these are muscles that we have to keep exercising, and we have to keep, because even as many times as I've spoken, I got an envelope in the mail the other day, and I was sitting in the car and I opened it up and was reading it, and it was, because it was a CE program, it was the survey results from the CE program. And so overwhelmingly 90+% of people are like, oh, this was great, this was wonderful. But where did my eyes go? To the 1 to 2%. It was never higher than 2%. Mm-hmm. So to the 1 to 2% of people who were like, no, that didn't do it. And I was like, so I'm focused down here on the 1 to 2%, but like, well, what? Mm-hmm. Whereas overwhelming 98, 99, and you see that and you're like, yeah, but the 2%, what was wrong? And so you're right, that whole black and white. And as you said, we tend to catastrophize things in our mind. So when you were like, what if we lose our house? I'm like, whoa, like what? What if my kids can't go to college? I'm like, whoa, but it's what we do. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's a muscle that we have to keep working on, because I'll tell you the other muscle that I have to work on, and that I continuously work on is, and I think social media is a blessing and a curse, is it's very tempting to be like, oh, well, and compare. Mm-hmm. I remind myself, because that's not the course that God put you on. Mm-hmm. That's not what he's called you to do. He didn't call you to do that over there or that over there. You stay in your lane and do the things that you're working on. Right. And they're just as brilliant, just as amazing, just as don't even compare, because there's no need for comparison, because everybody has their work to do. That's the other muscle that I continuously, remind myself of from time to time, because it's very easy to slip into, in my opinion, one, into the natural, but two, into how we came out of pharmacy school. Mm-hmm. It bred a different kind of,
like, competitiveness, or
yes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, that's not necessary. I really do believe that there is enough. Yeah. I believe that there's abundance, and I believe that there's enough. And so I don't have to look at you and go, how come? No, because what I'm doing over here is enough for me. I got my hands full, and so that's probably the advice that I would give myself back at this time, because I knew that I was doing something that to date I haven't seen done like this. Mm-hmm. And I knew the reason I was doing it. Mm-hmm. I knew that for even more reasons than I knew of then. But number one, I wanted women in our profession to be seen not just for what they do, but for who they are. And I'll be the one that will forever say, we're beautiful, we're bold, and we're brilliant. Mm-hmm. My mother used to say, it's not just enough to be pretty, you want to be pretty and smart. And so we're beautiful, we're bold, and we're brilliant. And I wanted people to see examples of women in pharmacy that are doing unconventional things, that are doing things that they've created. That's why I have that quote that says, you would be amazed at what a woman pharmacist will create. Because I really do believe that. I believe that if we get to our libraries and we get enough quiet time, we can come up with some, and that's why I said, I believe that what we're doing, it'll look different. Because what I'm doing looks different. This is not how I started, and I am convinced it's not how I will end up. There's more evolution to come, but being open, being ready, expecting it, and not going, well, what if I fail? I may, and if I fail, that's a good thing, because then I got more lessons to learn, and I don't want to stop learning the lessons.
Right. And it means you're moving forward.
Right.
It's hard to fail when you're in the same spot doing the same thing you literally do with your eyes closed.
And I don't want to be comfortable.
No.
I think of the years that I was comfortable, and the world was like, she's made it. But I was comfortable, and I would rather stay uncomfortable, because then that keeps me looking and expecting what is in store for me next, expecting the next person that I'm going to meet. And I'm not so comfortable that I miss it. I think that when we're in our comfort zones, all kinds of opportunities pass us by.
Yeah.
And some of them don't even stop and knock on the door because they see how complacent we are. And they're like, I'm not going to even ask her. And then the opportunities that do come to us, we're so comfortable that we're like, no, I don't know. And we think ourselves out of them.
Yeah.
So I want to stay uncomfortable because you're either growing or you're dying.
Right.
There is no stagnant state. And that whole staying comfortable is overrated.
Yeah. It absolutely is.
Dr. Pauline, tell us what is next for you. What's coming up next for you?
You know what? We have some very exciting projects that we're working on now that we are very, very excited about. There's some things that we are working on with the CDC, as far as like population health, helping primarily underserved communities get access to health care. That is amazing. And again, had we not been prepared, had we not been taking those small steps all along, we would not be here. We personally, my family is amazing and intact, and we're just continuing to grow and love each other. So that's amazing. But, professionally, I am open to kind of where things go. I used to be back in, 2019, 2018, when that magazine came out, I need this to happen. I need to see the whole staircase before I take the step. But now I'm like, you know what, let's head this direction, see what's happening, see what's available, see what opportunities are there. And if there's nothing there, we'll pivot a little bit, turn and go this direction. So, I love the stuff that we're doing as far as population health. I love the work we're doing with the CDC. I love the work we're doing with UAB here in Birmingham, going into the communities, helping them with their preventative medicine. And so it's just an amazing feeling to be able to sit across the table from someone and discuss their medications, discuss their diabetes, and really feel like you're making a difference in their lives, as opposed to just dispensing medication. And not, saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I felt like there was more inside of me, and I'm actually living that out real time, and that's amazing.
Now, I'm not, I don't hesitate to say what I think.
I know.
Pauline, you're doing an amazing thing because healthcare in America is broken. It's broken. Let's be real. It's broken, and you were part of a system, and you saw the brokenness. But it's like between a rock and a hard place because you need to survive. You need to take care of your family. You need to provide, but yet it's broken, and you saw the brokenness every day. Nonetheless, I commend you for what you're doing because you are offering a different opportunity. You are saying, hey, even if it's in this corner of the world, I may not, be at the point of providing this service nationwide, but it's in this corner. I'm going to start right here and try to help fix some of the brokenness. And I'm sure when we look at the scope of the problem, it can be overwhelming and you think, well, what can I do? But I remember when I started my consulting practice, I was like, if I can just take care of one patient at a time, no, I can't impact the whole, county, but if I can impact a few patients and help them have better outcomes for their health, I'll do it all day. Because at the end of the day, we signed up to help people better their health. And so I think that's where the rub comes from a lot of our colleagues and kind of for us, in that you're like, yeah, I want to help more. I know there's got to be more for me personally, because as I said, we're beautiful, bold, and brilliant. So it's got to be more for me. And I think it just indicates when we got to a place in our lives and it was time to move on to the next place. And God knew that we needed to move, but we were so like, this is what I studied to do. This is what's working in my life right now. And we didn't have the thought that something else could work because this was all we knew. So it's where if I'm going to stay right here, I talk about being comfortable, because if I stay right here, I know this works.
Yeah. But you know what's so interesting? God has a way of making what we feel is comfortable, when it's time to go, when that season is over, he will make you uncomfortable. And I feel like this is the point that I got to, because he was like, okay, I've given you this vision. You're not going to do it on your own. So let me change the environment a little bit, make things a little bit different. And I felt that. I remember the moment where I felt like, you know what? I'm not going to retire here. Like, this isn't my future. I was like, I've been here 20 years. I literally do not see another 20 years, but what else is there? And that's when I just started really searching and researching and doing things. But yeah, he definitely has a way of making you uncomfortable when that season is over.
Mm-hmm.
You will know that it's over. I used to tell people all the time, I felt like this beautiful flower that had bloomed, is just beautiful and vibrant, that a glass case had been placed over.
Mm-hmm.
And while the flower looked beautiful from the outside looking in, internally it was kind of suffocating, and it was internally died. That's what it felt. That's what it feels like to be out of season, to be
Right.
a season to be over, and you still to be in that space. So you'll get to the point where it's uncomfortable, and you will definitely know when it's time to.
Mine was my health.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I literally, like, stuff was just happening. And for me, if you've ever, like, you know how you see the movie and the person is like, what is going on? And like, it's almost like everything else is in color and you're in black and white, or you're in color and everything else is black and white. You're moving at the fast motion and everything around you is slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about feeling like you are out of sync, out of whatever, out of step,
Yep.
that was how I was. Like, it almost was like, my parents would say, don't say that, because I'd be like, what else can happen?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm having all these health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you're too young for anything, but you're literally like, really? Like, I shouldn't be having these issues.
Yeah.
But now, when I look back, I know that's how you get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't ignore my health for too long.
Right.
And so I just started having these weird, bizarre health issues that when I left my job, they stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and so then I would find myself at the doctor's office after I left my job, and my physician, he was like, Miss Dodd, you look great. And I was like, I left that job. And he was like, wow, because it was like when I left, and it wasn't a bad job.
Right.
But when I left, it was like I started sleeping. The things that were just rearing their ugly heads all just kind of calmed down. It was like, well, is that what I needed to do? I just needed to leave. Mm-hmm. But it got my attention to be like, something is out of order. Something is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's what had to, because I had situations where it's like, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. But then when it became my health, that really made me sit up, take notice, and go, okay. And it was so weird that when I left, it just, and so then I'm like, no, but you understand, that really was bothering me. Right. And here I'm trying to explain, because it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah. And the thing for me, I had a very similar situation where there were things going on physically, but you go to the doctor and your labs look great. They couldn't really, physiologically see anything wrong. But I'm like, well, I feel terrible. And to me, that was, again, being out of season, being in a space where it's time to move on, but for whatever reason, you're stuck there. And so it was kind of mental things manifesting physically.
Right.
All of my labs were great, but I felt terrible.
Right.
And like you said, it's not necessarily because things were so bad at my place of employment, but it was just that season was up. And when it's time to go, it's time to go.
It's like we had to be pushed out of the nest.
Absolutely.
I was holding on to the edges thinking, no, I have a 3-year plan and it's going to go like this. And then my health was like, no, we can't wait.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, but what about my plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flexibility. You got to be flexible. You got to be open to what else is out there, because there's a whole world. Like you said, there are literally millions of people. I'm in Alabama, and as far as like chronic diseases, there's so much work to be done. And it's not a thing where physicians and nurse practitioners can do it alone. So we're like, you know what? There is a place for pharmacists who don't dispense medication to be a part of a team that goes out and helps people improve their health. And so, we're just digging out our little space.
I don't have on my shirt today, but I have shirts that say everyone needs a pharmacist, because I really do. No matter if you're trying to get off medications, if you're trying to understand the medications you're on, if you're trying to understand what's even happening in your body with regard to the medications, everyone needs a pharmacist. I believe that wholeheartedly, because there's a reason we trained like we did for as long as we did. And not everyone needs a pharmacist to the exclusion of any other healthcare professional, but everyone needs a pharmacist at the table in their healthcare discussions, like you need any other professional. I wholeheartedly believe that. So I appreciate what you're doing. I love, 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 and admire every time I see you say, we're over here and we're doing this, and I see the tent up, and I'm like clicking, I click on your pictures, and so that I'm cheering for you, because we need more of this. I know I talked before about even girls needing to see examples of women in science, technology, engineering, and math positions. And oftentimes when you hear the word STEM, pharmacy doesn't necessarily rise to the top of that, but it is surely included in that. And so I think little girls and big girls need to see, and grown women need to see examples of women who are doing things that are out of the box, that because I think we're not taught to use our creativity as much. And I especially think that girls of color need to see women of color as examples that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I know we're about to run out of time, but I actually went to a high school career fair.
I saw that post.
It was so amazing because the way it was kind of like a round robin. The kids came, you stayed put, but the kids came to your class. And I had 3 sessions. My first session, there were like 3 students in the class. And I mean, this is a school of hundreds of students. So I'm like, where is everybody? Nobody wants to learn about pharmacy. Woe is me, you know. And then by the second, the teacher who I was in her classroom actually went out and was like, y'all have got to hear this young lady. She's not only talking about pharmacy, she's talking about life and college and, you know, and then by the last session, the classroom was full. And so I did a poll, like, how many of y'all are here because you want to learn about pharmacy? And how many of y'all are here because your other option was full, you know? And so some of them raised their hands, but it was so amazing to be able to tell them about a path that was not traditional. And what the teacher said to me that was so amazing was that not everybody can be a pharmacist. Like, you know, you have to have a certain skill set and be able to do math and science and all that stuff. She said, not everybody in that room will be able to be a pharmacist, but you gave them options for other careers that they could have in healthcare, like pharmacy technician, like medical assistant. I mean, I talk about a lot of careers where, you know, physician assistant. If you don't want to go to medical school, there are other careers in healthcare that you can do that doesn't require 8, 12 years of school.
Right.
She said she thought that was amazing. And I thought, you know, I was just kind of up talking, just giving them ideas of things that they could do. And I never knew that it kind of, that's the message that I was portraying. It wasn't intentional. It was just talking about different careers in pharmacy. So to be able to, you know, say, these are some other ways that you can use your love for helping people and science and math in ways that can really impact people's lives. And the fact that it resonated that way, when I left, I mean, I think I smiled all the way to the office because I was like, you know, it wasn't even intentional, but that's the way it came out.
And, you know, speaking of what you just said, it's interesting because I see pharmacists currently in our profession who sometimes are really down and tell people, oh, don't become a pharmacist. And I get it, you know, whatever the experience they've had that has led them to have that outlook. But I think as I did when I became a pharmacist 24 years ago, I think the same today. It's an amazing place to be in a profession. I think that even now, more than, you know, when I came out of school, my philosophy, you can build whatever you want, literally, whether it's clinical, whether it's not. I mean, even if you do something that supports pharmacists, like I believe that that's why that shirt says everyone needs a pharmacist. It's got multiple meanings, but literally, I think that pharmacy is a great profession if you're willing to bring your openness, your ingenuity, your creativity. Now, if you're going into pharmacy because you want it to be like it was in yesteryear, you might be a little bit disappointed. But to go into pharmacy with the knowledge that you have, whether you ever take care of a patient or not, there's still lots to do, because even, as I've said to pharmacy technicians, all these pharmacists out here who are entrepreneurs, call them up and see, do they need a technician?
Yeah.
Because at some point you maybe already are or going to be where you need a tech to do triaging for you, and you can train them to gather a certain amount of information from your patients, so that when you step in, you're stepping in and doing exactly what your gifting and talents are, and not using your time doing things that you could have someone else to do for you. And I think that's one of the places that even I suggest for technicians. Call up some of these pharmacist entrepreneurs and ask them, because people to help with your marketing, people to help with your every step of your to help with your fulfillment, your follow-up. There are lots of things that can be done. And I think that where we get caught is we think what we've been taught and that's it.
Yes.
But I think that if you bring your creativity and your ingenuity, pharmacy is a great profession. That's a quote. I gotta quote that. If you bring your ingenuity and your creativity, pharmacy is a great profession.
Absolutely.
It's going to continue to change. And so as it keeps changing, if you're stuck and you've got your feet cemented and you're like, I'm not changing, then of course it's going to be a rough ride and you're going to be very frustrated and angry. However, if you're willing to change as the profession changes, create what it is that you want to see. I tell people all the time, create what you want to see. Whatever gap you see when you're like, I can't believe, then fix that problem.
Yep. And it's so interesting because I remember being, working in my corporate job, and anytime a new initiative came down, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I can't do anything else, whether it was immunizations, talking about, changing. When pharmacists first started doing immunizations, 8 hours, 12 hours a day. We were like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? And then COVID came and it was COVID testing. It was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do something else? But now it's like we take that same, Dr. Jennifer and I take that same level of ingenuity and say, okay, how can we impact people in the community so that they can see the same services that people are receiving in nursing homes and in pharmacies and things like that. And so we're taking those same ideas and going into the community and just really impacting people's lives. And I think it's amazing just to be able to open up your mind to things that, previously it was like, I don't want to do another task. I don't want to do another project. I don't want to implement another service. And now we sit at the table, okay, what else can we do? So it's a completely different mindset.
It's interesting when it's yours. You'll stay up and work all night. You will, because I think you said when we first got on, you were like, I work harder now than I thought I used to work hard. And yeah, me too. But it's different when you're creating what it is that you want to see in the world. It's that thing that makes you throw back the covers in the morning. You're like, ooh, it's time. Versus, feeling like you're stuck or like what you're doing isn't really making a difference, but you're just checking a box.
Yes.
I think that's where the difference lies, is that I love that you can create whatever you want. And you can add to it, you can build on it, you can say, okay, we tried that and let's do the next thing. I love that part of the days, in that if you can think about it, you literally can create it. So
I love it. And I'll tell Jennifer all the time, I was like, I had a moment, and I have moments where I wake up in the middle of the night and have to say something into my phone because an idea came to me, or, I'll be just having quiet time and I'll think of something and we'll try to find a way to implement it. And we were talking with a young lady who has a health tech company, and she was like, y'all just have so much going on. You really need to prioritize. And I was like, yeah, I mean, we're only limited by our resources. Right now it's Jennifer and I, and prayerfully we'll, hopefully first quarter we'll be getting some other team members to help us implement this stuff. But we have more ideas than we have time and resources.
Right.
And that's an amazing space to be in, let me tell you.
Because then you're never at a loss of what we're going to implement next. It's not like you're sitting and tapping your fingers like the Maytag man. You're literally like, oh, there's not enough time. So many ideas, so little time.
Yeah.
I think that's the better. And that's, again, why I say that pharmacy is a great profession, and that if people bring their creativity and their ingenuity, who knows? I really do believe that pharmacists are poised to solve a lot of the challenges that we see in healthcare today.
I think so too. I absolutely agree with that.
Well, Dr. Pauline, I knew we would talk for a long time. I knew we could. She says she's an introvert, but I knew that we couldn't talk for just 30 minutes. So let me ask you one final question, because I know that, as we talked about before we went live, people are going to want to connect with you. Tell us the one best way for people to get in touch with you. If they're watching this on replay or on live and they're like, ooh, how do I connect with her? What's the one way that people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is probably on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I'm Dr. Pauline K. Long. And you'll see my picture up there, but that's probably the easiest way. I'm on LinkedIn pretty frequently. So shoot me an inbox. Love to connect and talk.
They're going to be lined up, I know. All right. Well, as always, it is so, first of all, I am so proud and happy for you. Congratulations on all of the things that I see and I get to cheer you on. Congratulations. It's sweet, and I'm happy for you. And thank you for taking the time. I know we went longer than we anticipated we would, but we can talk. Yeah. And so I love talking to you. Thank you for taking the time to stop by and let us know what you've been up to. And I can't wait to keep watching and seeing where you end up next, where you drive to, where you steer. Yeah. Both you individually as well as you and Dr. Jennifer with the consulting. I can't wait to see the amazing places that you all are going. So thank you so much. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. We are very, very grateful for where we are and where we're headed. So I'll just tell everybody, stay tuned.
Right. All right, Dr. Pauline, thank you for stopping by. You will be able to catch Dr. Pauline's Where Is She Now update in the fall issue of PharmaSis Magazine coming soon. So look for her there, and definitely remember to connect with her on LinkedIn. Take care. Bye.
Bye.